Welcome to the 301 Podcast, the interview podcast for the hottest up-and-coming entrepreneurs, artists, and creators. Real, authentic, and inspiring. And here is your host, Marcus Engel. Let's get it started in 301.
Today in the 301 Podcast, I'm sitting down with Elles Ottens. Elles is an international model, a TEDx speaker, a life coach, and a RTT therapist. And what that is, we will come back later. And today we'll be talking about her work with the biggest brands in the world as a model. But we'll also talk about the interesting contrast about the external world of fashion and the internal world of RTT therapy. Elles, welcome to the 301 Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a nice intro.
Awesome. And the cool thing is, we met in a networking event, actually.
Yes.
It's the Amsterdam Founders Club. Shout out to Marcel. He's doing a great job. If you're searching for a Founders Club in Amsterdam, you have to definitely join this one. It's really nice. And I can remember that when you had the session, I was actually signed up for a different session. But for some reason, I thought,
let's try this out.
That sounds really, really interesting. And it was like a networking situation. Everyone was super hyped and super energetic.
High energy, right? Yeah.
And I remember that after 3 minutes, everyone was quiet and calm and breathing.
Thank you.
What did you do? That was amazing. And I think it's a great tip for everyone who wants to have rapid transformation, rapid calmness. They can do this little trick.
Yeah. So this looks really funny because basically what we did is that we looked up with our eyelids closed. And then you'll see this fluttering sensation in your eyelids. I feel like if I do it now, I look a little bit like a freak, in front of the camera.
It's going to be a great clip for TikTok.
Yeah. Maybe we can do it together.
Yeah.
You're looking up, then you close your eyelids. So it looks like you're shaking your eyelids. And then actually it looks really funny, but your brain then is stepping into the alpha brainwave state. So it enables your nervous system to calm down and to relax more. But yeah, it always looks funny because maybe people are thinking if others look at them, right? When they are looking like that. So it can look really funny.
Yeah.
But it really is a nice way to get into that calmer state. Yeah.
And for me, it's really funny because I have really problems letting myself go in those kind of things. I always try to find I don't know how to describe that, more is it real, or try, is it a hack, is it a magic trick or something? Do I believe in this or something like this? So for me, it's always quite difficult to just let go and be okay, just relax. It's just an exercise or something like this.
What happens if you let go?
If I let go, I think probably I get faced with the true self, and that's maybe scary.
That's really scary, right? So then it's easier to block it. Yeah. That makes sense.
So that's always so that's why I think it was an amazing talk that you gave, and I think it was really cool to see you at work.
Thank you.
And then I started following you, and I was figuring out so much more things about you, where I was okay, so there's a much more maybe not depth, because I think it was very deep, but I think more a wider field of things that you're interested in that you've done. And one thing is that you're can you say international supermodel, I think.
Thank you. I guess, I don't know. It feels weird to say that, I don't really identify as a model, but yeah, I guess you can say that.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit braggy or something like that,
Would you call yourself that? If someone would say
no.
Sometimes you have to go to the hotels and then you have to write your profession. What would you write in there?
I would write hypnotherapist and model. Yeah. But I would never write supermodel.
Yeah.
Just feels over the top,
Yeah.
Maybe that's very Dutch of me too. I don't know.
Very humble. Yeah.
It even feels funny to say that I'm humble. You know what I mean? Because then it feels I don't know. Then you actually acknowledge that you're that you did great things, right?
Yeah. Is that difficult for you? To be proud of yourself in a way?
I am very proud of what I do, but at the same time, I also feel lucky. I feel that was just in my path, and I don't want to identify too much with the external results, because that way also I can maybe feel very proud right now, but maybe let's say in 10 years, or let's say in many years later, if I'm, I don't know, let's say only a mom, or let's say I have a totally different profession that is not appreciated by society, that would mean that then I would feel low about myself, right? So there's a lot of thoughts, layers right now, but that's why I try to identify more with my intentions. Like, who am I as a person instead of like the labels?
Mm.
Yeah. It's like a very deep topic.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's super interesting. But did you always feel that way? Like, because I think we'll talk about your modeling career and how it started in a bit, but like, was it for you kind of like, since you started like being a life coach, like a therapist, like hypnotherapist and all this kind of stuff, is that when you kind of like started to really think about those things?
No. I started thinking about that before because I used to feel like really proud of myself and like kind of like almost like a little bit arrogant if I would like have a lot of jobs, you know, if I would be like on a billboard, like I would be like really impressed, you know. But then also in other moments when I would have maybe no money for like a couple of months, where I would like maybe ask my grandma at the time for her, how do you call this? Like the plastic bottles, you know, to give it to the supermarket to then get the money for that, to actually go to the bus for my side hustle. You know, that happened once.
Crazy.
It was like very up and down. And I realized that if I identified so much with those results, I would feel up and down all the time. You know, like I would feel very up if I would be like on a billboard, or if I would have a very cool campaign, and very down if I didn't earn anymore for like a couple of months. And it would make me really anxious because then I would just feel like not good enough, right? Because if I am my results and I don't get any results, who am I, right? So at some point I really understood, okay, sometimes these successes kind of like happen in seasons, and some seasons are really good and some seasons are really bad, especially in the modeling industry. And in order to feel like good in all seasons, I have to trust that the next season will be great again, but that it doesn't really matter that this season is bad, let's say, because, you know, it just happens like that. So then that's actually what pushed me into this industry, you know?
So
like,
it was really kind of like let's say also like the hard times, or like that you had to endure, that you had to say, I have to find something
to keep me stable.
To keep you stable.
Yeah, because it's really tough sometimes, like to not identify with your income, or to like look very successful on the outside, but to actually like, you know, not have any jobs or not have any success. Like I remember, for example, one time I went to LA and I had a lot of free shoots, and basically it looked like I was working a lot, right? But all of these shoots were for free. So I didn't earn anything. Then I got sent home because I didn't earn enough. Then I went to the pub and I saw a guy and he asked me, Elles, wow, you're doing so well. I think you can retire soon, right? And I was like, damn, what a difference, right?
Yeah.
Like I got sent home early because I didn't earn well. And somebody else on the other side thinks that I'm retiring soon.
Was it then like the difference between kind of like reality, let's say what really happened, and then kind of like how you portrayed it on Instagram?
Yeah. That felt maybe also quite shallow, right? Because then it's like you look very successful, but you know the truth.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, you know, scary, or like, I don't know where I was like going with this story, but
we'll pick it up later. But how did it kind of start for you anyways, like to get into modeling? Was it kind of like this typical story that I never personally experienced, but like that you could just get picked up like, oh, you look beautiful, like you should be a model?
It was like that.
Really? That's crazy actually. I thought it was always like kind of like fake stories, because like,
it really happened like that. It was on King's Day. I got scouted. I was like 18 years old. I was studying at the time. And then I got scouted by my agency at the time. And then I just quit my studies. I broke up with my boyfriend at the time. I canceled my holiday with my girlfriends and I just went to LA. So it was a quite big life change,
That's crazy. But like, what gave you like the confidence to, maybe like confidence or like vision? Because I think getting scouted like is one thing. But like, how can I imagine kind of like the next steps? Like you get scouted, he says like, hey, you look super beautiful. I think you should be a model. Like, what are then kind of like the next steps?
Well, the next steps are usually like kind of like made by your agency, because they set up some like test shoots for you to like create a portfolio. Then they propose you to like different agencies. And then he just told me, okay, LA is interested. Do you want to go? And of course I wanted to go, right? So it was interesting because I was living in this really small village of like 500 people. And then I changed my Facebook status to living in Hollywood, which felt really cool at the time, right? But that's how it all started. Yeah.
Did you have then already the feeling that you could, like, did you have the kind of confidence that you're like, I could make it?
No, like I just thought, let me just try it. Like I was always very adventurous. I always wanted to travel the world. I kind of had this feeling like I won't make it anyways, but let me try. Why not? Like it's not going to happen, but I just have to try. That's kind of the feeling in the beginning. And then that feeling kind of got confirmed in the beginning as well, because, like for the first 2 years, I believe, it was really hard for me to make money. So that was like a quite long time, So yeah, in the beginning, it was really hard to like, let's say, make it or to get jobs and to really create a name in the industry. Yeah.
And did you always have to kind of like have the wish to become like a model, or is that something that you were busy as a child already just to, I don't know, go to do like runways at home? Like
I did do that actually. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. I've always wanted to model, but I've always had like a lot of dreams. So it was like one of the dreams. Yeah.
But you made it reality, so that's a big difference, of course.
Yeah.
And do you remember like the first time that you were super comfortable in front of like the camera, that you like did a shoot and you were like, actually I belong here? Like it's kind of like...
Yeah, so for the shoots itself, I always felt quite comfortable. Like that was quite easy for me. Like it feels quite natural for me. Like I don't think so much. I just am, you know what I mean? Like I'm just in the moment there. But the castings and those kind of things felt quite difficult for me sometimes. Yeah. Or like creating those connections and like really believing that I was like good enough to like book certain jobs. To see myself as like on the same level as certain brands are. Like I thought I can model, but I can never reach that level. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And what helped you then in this kind of like phases to like still believe in yourself?
Yeah.
Like was it in your environment or like your agents or?
Deep down, I always had this feeling that I can do it. But I think the biggest change for me was when I had one time the casting for Dolce Gabbana. Then the first time, I didn't believe in myself at all. And I also didn't get booked, right? But then the second time I got invited again. So it showed me that if they want to see me again, it means that the product, let's say, is good enough, right? Otherwise, they don't want to see me. But that also means that I don't present myself in the right way, because otherwise I might have been picked before. So that's when I started to really work on the way how I saw myself. So I started to like visualize and really imagine to not go to an interview, but really just to see somebody who is like a friend. So to not put somebody up on a pedestal, but to really see that person as equal to me. And therefore to feel like way more confident and just like yourself, So when I went there, they actually booked me. And then the third time when I again had the casting for Dolce Gabbana, I actually booked a campaign. So it really showed me that when I changed the way how I see myself, other people see me in a different way too. So that's when I started to gain more self-belief as well.
And what do you think made you stand out like from the others? Like, is it then like just luck that you say like, oh, they just kind of searched for like a certain profile or model type and I just fitted the bill? Or is it then that you think, oh, it's also about my personality and also my, like, can you quantify that for yourself? Or
I think it's both, like you need to be the right fit, because sometimes also you can be like really believing in yourself and you can give it your all, but you can still like not make it in any certain field, let's say, right? Like it needs to be the right match too. But I always believe that when you feel worthy of it, that you increase your chances, right? So I think it was a combination that obviously like I was one of the girls that they were looking for, but then also I could like own that as well. Because I think also a brand like that, they want you to like really embody that, right? And to really embody that confidence, let's say. So I think it's a combination of both.
Interesting.
I think that you need to have both. Yeah.
And how does because I think many people don't know that, because of course they've not been in the situation to be a model, but like how does a normal typical kind of like casting day look like? And maybe also how does a negative casting day look like? Because I mean, of course, now we have a success story of like, hey, Dolce & Gabbana booked me, but how many Dolce & Gabbanas did it take basically to get there?
Well, I cannot even say how many castings I had because it's so many. And I think a bad day looks like, you just go to so many different castings and they make you wait for so long and you don't get picked. So for example, I had some castings where I waited for like 3 hours. And then I remember like one time, you know, like you're bringing your portfolio to show them. And then I had a tablet, you know, like an iPad as a portfolio. And they just told me, we don't like iPads, you know, just go to the back of the line. And then there were like 50 models, you know, and then you wait for like 3 hours outside. So these are like the extremes, which is like really rare. But a good casting day will be where it's really targeted. So they only invite models that they think are a good fit. And they don't invite like way too many models, because that happens too. They don't care many times. They just invite everyone. They just maybe need like one model, but they invite like 200 or 300, you know, and then
like
then you end up
159 in line, and you know already probably I'm not gonna get it.
Yeah. So that's the difficult part sometimes, like when you have so many castings and it's not really not personalized enough, I would say. And that can be tiring sometimes, right? But
what does this do to you as a kind of like a human, like, because in the end, like, then it really feels like almost like a product, right? To like, I can order them here and they will come, you know, and then it's like, how do you, like, is it then for you kind of more like a job that you say like, well, it's part of the job, like like this, or how did you kind of like go through those days?
These days, it just is like a job for me, you know, like I don't really care so much anymore about those kind of things. Or like when people make really rude comments, like I just see it as part of the job, let's say. But in the past, it was definitely difficult for me. Like I really felt like everybody's going somewhere, like people are studying, you know, people are building their career, and I'm just, you know, going to all of these castings and I don't get any jobs. And I really felt this urge, like I really felt that I needed to become somebody. I needed to like achieve certain things to feel worthy of myself, right? To feel good enough, basically. So that was really tough in those moments because I felt unworthy. And at the same time, I also had so many castings and didn't really get anywhere, right? So then you start to think way too much. Yeah. So that was tough in moments. But I think modeling also has taught me so much, like about resilience, not taking things personal. It has just taught me so much about life. Yeah.
Yeah, and that also, I think, in the end, not many people see it like this, I think. But I think it's almost like, it's like a high performance culture. I think you can compare it to like, I don't know, a sports team or like a Formula One or something like this, where it's like everyone is like so 100% on their A game, even though it only looks for like the outsiders, like, oh, they're just beautiful girls or boys that go in front of the camera or something like this, right? But I think everyone is so professional and so like on a high level that like it's also in the end is like high performance cultures or high performance like settings that you're like in. Is there anything that like you like, because I think from the outside the whole modeling industry looks very glamorous, especially like the shoots, the red carpets, the runways, everything is like very glamorous. But is there anything that surprised you, like, I don't know, from the inside that you were like, oh wow, people really don't know that it's like this?
Yeah, well, usually when you're starting out with modeling, you sleep in like a model apartment, you know, and they're like the opposite of glamorous. So I had like really weird stories with roommates, you know, like some people, they would just like put like plates underneath the bed, or like they would just like eat something and just like throw the paper on the ground. Some people like smoke in the room, you know, and then you're like sleeping with that person in the room. And then, you know, that's like the opposite of glamorous, right? So those things were definitely sometimes hard. Like what you post is maybe you on the runway show, right? Or in the airplane. I even like in the beginning of my modeling years, I remember posting a picture with me in front of the helicopter because that was my transportation to a runway show, right? But of course I didn't post other things that were like not that glamorous.
No.
Like those kind of things with the roommates. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What is it like to kind of work then with those top brands? So you go through the castings, you make it, and you like, what is more kind of enjoyable? Is it then like the process of creating, or is it like the kind of just the final result? Like what is for you kind of like more satisfying?
I think both. like it's really fun to create together. Like I kind of feel like I'm meditating when I'm shooting because I guess in a way it's like acting, like you become that person and therefore you don't really think because you're just in that state. Like I'm trying to just like imagine this persona who is who they chose for that shoot. So like, what is she like? What kind of personality does she have? And I try to step into that. So it's very meditative for me and therefore really fun. And I think the social aspect of it is really fun too. So to create something all together. But of course, it's also really nice to get the picture and to like see the result as well. So it's a different kind of joy, I would say. Yeah.
Is your modeling self like a character or is it you?
I think it's a character.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because, it's funny, like, I don't really like to take pictures. Like if it's me and my friends, like I almost never take pictures. Like also on my Instagram, you'll just find like modeling pictures, but not so many of like me with friends because I just like to be in the moment. And also, I don't know, I guess when I'm modeling, I'm just like stepping into that zone and I guess I feel more confident as a model, when I wear that, let's say, mask or like when I step into that part of me.
But were you always like this, or is this also part of kind of like the evolution of a model? Because you talk also openly about it, at least on your TED Talk you did.
Yeah.
And in your TED Talk, you also describe like kind of like in a very young age, I think very harsh criticism of photographers of like their face is too long, or people saying like, I don't know, like maybe if you would eat less, like you could even have more bookings or something like this. Is this mask kind of like a protection mechanism that you built up, or is it something that you think you kind of always had?
I feel like I had that from the beginning, kind of like I always stepped into this kind of meditative state. It was more the lifestyle around it that was difficult for me sometimes.
And what does it do to you as like a young, I mean, you were 18, 19, 20, 21 when you booked like your big clients.
Yeah.
What does this kind of criticism like do to you as a person? Like how does it shape you?
I feel like these days, it's interesting because these days I take it differently than in the past. But in the beginning, it was really tough for me, like I would sometimes like stay maybe like 1 month at home to like lose 2 centimeters, right? So it's like so extreme if you think about it. And like even in some contracts for modeling, they write that like if you don't have the exact weight as what you have written down before, they can maybe, not pay pocket money or these kind of things. So pocket money, for example, is like weekly money that they give. In the beginning, it was really tough for me because it felt like something out of my control. Like I've always been somebody who like really values health. So I would never do anything to like harm my health. And it also felt sometimes impossible, to like, to really make it work because they would almost ask for me the impossible, right? So I'm really happy that I've always like had this like really good family, that I've had like a good childhood and therefore never had to like do something extreme, right? But in the beginning, it was definitely tough for me to get that feedback, like super harsh feedback. If I think back about it, it makes me laugh just because of like how rude some things can be, Like I remember also, for example, when I was in LA, so I got sent home, right? And the way how they did it was that they told me that, Alice, everything is great. Like you look great. Your clothing style is great. Your pictures are great. We think it's your personality. You need to go home. I was like, what? I was like crying so much because I was like, oh my God, I could have made it in LA. But because my personality is not good enough, I didn't make it, like I was 18 at the time. And I kind of took it to heart, right? Like I kind of trusted them with that. So luckily, like it didn't stay with me for too long. Like I could like shake it off afterwards. But let's say in the first few weeks, I really believed that, right? So in the beginning, it was really tough. Yeah.
Especially about I think the personality is almost like
that's like the most painful thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a big attack. It's like, you cannot really make it. Like you don't have the looks. You don't have this. It's like, okay, fine.
I'd rather have a long face,
exactly.
and then not make
I cannot
it
change it, but personality is like, damn, that's deep.
That hurts.
Yeah. Was it then really difficult for you to come back from this?
I think what was more difficult for me is just the instability. Like I could really do my best. I could like really take care of my skin, really take care of my body, do everything that I need to do and still not succeed, right?
No.
That was the most difficult part for me. Like this thing in LA, like it really hurt in the moment, maybe for a couple of weeks, let's say. But after that, like I didn't think much about it anymore. But the instability was really tough. Like to never really know, like, am I going to earn or not? Like I had times where I would just like eat like beans for breakfast or like pasta for breakfast because it was the cheapest, right? So these things were like tough. And then at the same time, you need to like watch your weight. So it's like
heavy carb pasta is not the right thing to do.
So it was difficult sometimes.
But I find it's also crazy because especially for women, like, I mean, there's so much hormonal things going on as well, right? Like period and hormone changes and PMS and all this kind of stuff. And then you kind of always kind of being judged on this is also quite tough. You later then transitioned to like becoming a life coach, becoming like a hypnotherapist. Is this connected to like kind of like inside outside like worlds that like a big part of your life you spent like being judged on the outside, but never really on the inside, you know, because like, I mean, well, they judged you also on the inside a little bit, but like, I think normally on shoots, it's like, hey, either you fit the bill or you don't, and you're out. Was this also then like a little bit like a craving for you to kind of transition into this kind of like, I want to go a little bit deeper in life, I want to, or where did that come from?
Like I often felt like I kind of was like lacking meaning. So when I would like model full time, when I would have shoots every day, at some point I would feel like, what's kind of the point of this, right? So I felt like I'm not really contributing to the world. I felt a little bit lost. So that I think also pushed me a little bit, but also, you know, like working on my own self-esteem and working on the way how I saw myself, and therefore like seeing the results of my career as well also really helped me. But at the same time, I feel like if I wouldn't have modeled, I would have still been here, because when I was like 10 years old, I would watch Oprah Winfrey and these kind of things. So I feel like it's kind of in my pet. So I feel like it just depends on how I tell you the story.
You know?
Of
course. I think like, you can also always tell like the story like how you want it, right? Say, that makes total sense, or that doesn't make sense at all. But was it then maybe first kind of like a healing myself in this process, and then
for sure
realizing I can also help other people?
Because in the beginning I would feel so lost. Like I would really feel like I need to become somebody. Like I really felt like I was kind of like behind in life. So I would like wake up feeling like anxious. I would like read so many self-help books. Like I really wanted to find my purpose or like my passion. And I really felt like I needed to like achieve more, you know? But then throughout that journey as well, I also really understood that it doesn't really matter. Like I feel like sometimes we make ourselves too important, you know? So at some point I also just decided that it doesn't really matter what I do, but also how I do it. So I really decided that, okay, from now on, even though I don't know what I exactly want to do, I'm going to like really be the kindest person on the shoot, you know, to like bring a good mood, to like maybe bring champagne at the end of the shoot, or to do acts of kindness to strangers, to like still really feel connected to my heart in a way. Because I think oftentimes not only about what you do, but also how you do it. So yes, in a way, like, I guess the modeling industry really helped me to come on this path, but I think it would have happened either way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in your life that you think it will come anyways? Because like you already kind of visualized it or something?
I don't know. I feel like these days I'm just kind of like trying to surrender to my intuition. Like I meditate a lot, then I like envision my future self, and then whatever I see there, I just try to follow. I don't know. Let's see what will come around. Yeah.
How does then like okay, you did all the certifications. You are like a certified hypnotherapist. Certified life coach. How does then like working together with you work? Like where would you say is like your like where you can like help people the most or something like this? Or how can people like work together with you and
You mean like what area can I help the best, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with what kind of problems can I come to you?
Yeah, anything.
anything. You just come.
Yeah, just come. Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, like you might have heard that 95% of everything that we think, do, and feel is stemming from your subconscious mind. So oftentimes we're not aware of like what is driving our behavior and what is driving those maybe self-sabotaging patterns, like in our relationships or friendships or work. So with hypnosis, I really help you to understand what is going on deeper underneath the surface level, what is going on in your subconscious mind. And this can be actually like connected to any topic in your life, right? So topics that I've worked on are, for example, procrastination, motivation, like putting yourself out there, these kind of topics, but also different kind of topics, like connected to like relationships, love life. Even one time a lady, she wanted to become pregnant, and we worked on like deeper traumas that like really blocked her from like believing that she would be a good mom, you know, for example. Because there's also like a big like mind-body connection. Yeah, so it can be so many different topics, but the topics that I really love to talk about are imposter syndrome, motivation, procrastination, and really putting yourself out there. Yeah. So for like starting entrepreneurs, usually.
What fascinates you so much about like kind of like the subconscious mind of people?
Well, I feel like I know people so well because I know like what they've been through in different stages of their life. I'm just fascinated by people, like, and I love to hear their story, like what has influenced them to think a certain way, to become a certain way. So it just feels like super intriguing for me to have the trust of the people to really understand what is going on in their subconscious mind and how it drives them. I just find it super interesting because I think oftentimes we're not aware of how much it influences us and how it really creates our destiny in a way. Like how it creates our path. You know, like for example, oftentimes you see that people attract a similar type of boyfriend or girlfriend, right? And then maybe they blame the partner, but actually it's you because there are deeper patterns underneath, right? And for me, it's just really fascinating that when you actually work on those beliefs, then you can also attract a different kind of environment, right? Because then maybe when somebody asks you out and that person is actually not good for you, you'll feel it faster and therefore you won't go there. But it's like that with any kind of area in your life. Right?
Or you recognize patterns like already early to say, okay, so the same kind of person, the same kind of
exactly.
like jealous guy.
Yeah. So for me, it's just interesting because that way you can really like construct your life way more intentional because you think that you're actually choosing for something, but actually your subconscious mind is choosing for it, right? Or is driving your behavior. And if you don't know why that is, then it's also really hard to change it.
How does a session then normally look like when...
Yeah, so normally we start off, of course, like with a topic that somebody wants to work on. And then I bring them through that deeper state of like relaxation. And then you can kind of see it like as a guided visualization. So then in that deeper state, I'm going to regress them often back to childhood to see where certain like beliefs are coming from or certain patterns, right? And then in that state, you give like extra love to your younger self. You give yourself the validation, the love, the space that you need to have in that moment. And therefore you can also feel different right now. Because oftentimes when we get triggered in our business, in our private life, it's actually your younger self that is being triggered in that moment, right? But when you can give yourself love, your younger self love, maybe it might be like your 5 years old self, or maybe your 15 or even 25, whatever. If you create space for what needs to be seen in that moment, then you will also feel different nowadays. I mean, in this time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what I do. So I help them to like create the space and to give love to themselves and to like change that belief actually, because it's never the events that hurt us, but the beliefs that we create in those moments. So then when they change the beliefs, they will also feel different. Then afterwards, I make an audio for them. They listen to it for like 3 weeks to really reprogram those thought patterns. Because oftentimes, like we have certain beliefs and we're kind of like used to think a certain way. And when you listen to an audio for like several weeks, then you can really train your mind to feel in a different way.
to make it actually real.
To really tap into that part of your personality.
Is that like, do you still feel kind of, because you kind of like started this journey and you said like, I really felt behind, you know, is it like, do you still have that feeling that you feel like behind?
I think nowadays I don't really think that there's like a behind. I think it's such an illusion because like, for example, let's say who is more influential, right? Like a person that has created a very big charity, or for example, their mom or dad that really raised them in a very good way. Right? Like, I think we cannot really measure success. Like, we don't know anything about the ripple effect. And like, so I feel like it's such an illusion. And also, I think it doesn't really matter, like, to be very successful or not. I feel like what we need more is just to be present and to do things with more kindness, with more love, with more patience. Because, you know, there are so many famous people, so many successful people, right? Like, does the world really need that? It can be great when it's for a great cause.
But I mean, it's very, very objective as well, right? Like, how do we define success?
How do we define success?
Through followers, through like whatever, someone's net worth and those kind of things, right? Like someone drives like a Ferrari or a Porsche or something like this, and that's it, right? And then someone is like, but there's so much more behind that. Like, you never know, like
how they really feel,
or if they're really successful, or like there's a guy here driving past the office and like the street up and down, and he's always on his bike with like flowers and like music, and he sings and stuff like this. And sometimes I'm so jealous of him because he's so free, you know?
He doesn't care.
Probably he has some fun with some substances, probably. But still,
maybe not. You don't know.
Yeah, but still it's so nice because like it's like sometimes, you know, you think like, okay, like this guy, okay, I don't know if he's happy. I can also not know that. But it's just like, he's so free of all the societal norms and everything that we have, that is sometimes quite refreshing. I kind of enjoy watching those people as well, because I'm like, I would never do that. Like, I would never like dare to like cycle up. Like,
I dare you.
Yeah, we have to do it later.
Why not? So. I think that's the real definition of success, to like feel so comfortable within yourself to not care at all what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
That's like actually also one of my goals, you know, to like really tap more into that side, to really be more crazy. Yeah.
The work that you do together with your clients, like what does it teach about yourself? Like, is there anything that it helps you kind of like also see more things inside of you, or is every story kind of like closed in itself in that person?
Well, I feel like, you know, like the stories are all different, but it all comes down to the same thing. It's all about like maybe not feeling good enough, not feeling like you fit in, and all of these kind of topics, right? Like if you really go to the deeper level, like you can kind of like categorize them in those areas. And I feel like it really always reminds me that we're all kind of so similar. Like everybody feels not good enough in moments, right? And everybody feels, I don't know, I feel like we're so similar in so many ways. And it just, for me, it's just fascinating. So it's very connecting for me. Like, because I feel like normally, like in many conversations, we don't share all of the details or like a lot of vulnerabilities, right? So I get to really hear all of these vulnerabilities. And I guess that also helps me accept myself more as well. I feel like we can be so hard on ourselves. But when you see that everybody's actually so hard on themselves, then actually you kind of understand that it's just all bullshit. All of these like mental thoughts, like all of the clutter, right? Yeah.
If I listen to you and the conversation that we had so far, like you had a lot of different kind of beliefs about yourself. Like first we said about the belief, like, am I a model or am I not a model? Like, am I worthy? Am I not worthy? Am I behind? Am I not behind? But what are kind of like the beliefs that you really had to let go to kind of become the version that you are today? What would you say?
I think it's not only necessarily about beliefs, but I think it's more about not believing your beliefs, you know? It's like understanding that thoughts are just thoughts, and that no matter how much you work on yourself, you will always have negative thoughts, and to learn to not take them seriously. Because I might still have, I still have negative thoughts, obviously. I feel like this is something that you can never really get rid of because it's just how the mind works. Like it tries to protect you, but to see it more as something cute, like I remember, for example, one time my agency told me to not say my age anymore in the video for like castings, right? I was like 21 at the time, super young still. So then I realized, like afterwards, I would like have some thoughts like, oh, I look old in this jacket or whatsoever, right? Then I also immediately like caught myself like, okay, that's such a funny thought, just let it go. So I feel like the most important thing that I've learned is just to like not take your thoughts too seriously. They're just thoughts. Like, yes, it's important to like change certain patterns. That's super powerful too. But I think the most important thing is to not try to control everything so much. So just let it come and go. Yeah.
Yeah, and also realize the vast amount of thoughts that you have on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have a number, but I don't have a number. I just know that there's a really cool book from Trevor Noah. No, it's not Trevor Noah. Oh, I'm butchering his name. I think his first name is Trevor. He unfortunately passed away, and he had like a book which is called Thinking Neutral, and he was a high performance coach at a football team.
Okay.
And they figured out that it's neither good to think positive or negative because those high performance NFL players, they have to do what they are trained to do, is to like play football and
to not be distracted, right?
Exactly.
Really be in the moment.
Because the premise was that like he was fascinated by the thought of a player is doing the shot 10,000 times, and 10,000 times in the training he's doing it well. And that one time where it really counts, and that's most of the time those final moments of a game or those crazy moments, that throw or shoot or whatever he had done 10,000 of times, he cannot do anymore. And that's because of like emotional thinking of like either thinking like positive or negative. So he had this big belief of like thinking neutral. And I know a stat that he said an average player talks 125,000 words to himself in like a 90-minute game.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
And then if you imagine like, okay, what are those words? Like, what are those thoughts? What is all this kind of stuff? And yeah, I think it's quite cool that, like you said, say as well, like if they would take every thought super seriously, then
it's tiring, and then also you're just super distracted, right?
Yeah.
But I always like to think in nuance. Like sometimes I like to really focus on my thoughts, sometimes not at all. So for example, when I'm like doing a runway, I really talk to myself, but then on a shoot, not at all, On a runway, I'm just like, damn, there she is,
Really?
Yeah. I'm just like, damn, like, there she goes. She's the most beautiful girl in the world, I'm just like talking like that, just like really get into that mood. But then on the shoot, not at all. I'm just like in this meditative state. I guess it also depends. Like in some moments you might need it, some moments you might not.
If like a younger runway self would look down the stage and would see you like now, who you are now, would she recognize yourself?
I don't think so.
And why?
I think right now I'm like way like owning it way more. But like I remember like my first like runway, it was so scary. Having so much attention. It was really scary. So of course I also walked a little bit funny, right? Yeah. So I guess there's a big change there, yeah. I would like to think. Yeah.
When do you think you're like truly yourself?
What does it mean to be yourself?
Where you can really, like you said, like own it?
Yeah, let go.
When do you really think like you kind of could own it, like that you really kind of like, this is like, I don't have to pretend to be anything. Like I can just be myself. I can just own it, whatever that is.
I feel like it might also depend on the day, right? Like sometimes you just don't have a good day. So for example, maybe right before my period, I might be a bit more insecure. So maybe in those days, it might be a bit harder to really feel like I don't need to care about anything at all, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I feel like I'm very much myself at shoots. I try to also be very much myself with friends. I don't know. I guess when I cannot be fully myself is when I feel that I need to prove something. or when I'm not sure if something is good enough, right? So when you're in your mind, yeah.
And when are you in those situations? Is it then external factors that other people pushed you to be in this way, or?
I guess more like when I go out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And then the first few minutes are scary. Yeah. So for example, in the beginning of this year, I had a workshop for the Net Club in London. And normally I do it for like, 20 to 30 people, the workshops, but this time there were like 60. And I felt a bit nervous. So I feel like in the beginning, I couldn't really fully be myself in terms of like feeling relaxed. But afterwards, it was okay too. But maybe that's also like being yourself. That's also part of yourself, right?
Yeah. And
in a way.
And do you think that like how do you put yourself then into this, like your self feeling? Is it then really through like kind of visualization or meditation, or like positive thoughts, negative thoughts? Like how can you kind of like adjust yourself in this moment?
In that moment, I think the most important thing is just to like, just let it be, just let it come and go. Like your emotions can come and go, thoughts can come and go. So to not try to fight it. But as a preparation, I really like to visualize often. So to really tap into that feeling. Tap into that feeling of confidence, tap into that feeling of what you want to experience. But sometimes maybe you might still be nervous in the moment when you're doing something new, when it's out of your comfort zone. And I think just by not fighting it too much, just letting it be, it will also not last for that long, if that makes sense. Because emotions and feelings also just stay for a few minutes, right? If you can just fully accept them.
Yeah, and so then embrace them rather than avoid.
Sorry?
And then embrace like those.
Yeah. It might be difficult sometimes, of course, because you don't want to feel that way, right? You want to feel like on fire and like the best version of yourself, but maybe it's also okay to not be that version of you at all times, I guess. So then by accepting it, you automatically move towards that version, I guess.
And when you, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but like treat people or like consult people, maybe that's a better wording. Like you take on quite, of course, a heavy load, because of course people that come to you and work with you, they have some sort of kind of like problem, psychological problem or any other problem, which can be quite heavy, right?
Yeah.
How do you kind of balance this out? Because of course, like, I don't know, police officers or something, they always say, like you just leave the uniform there and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think like, I don't know, like I believe that many times, but there's like, if I just think of myself, how many times I take home work to the kitchen table, it's a lot, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. How's that for you? Like, how can you like kind of balance yourself out in a way?
For me, like I'm still doing modeling at the moment. So I really like that balance, because modeling is for me very more like creative. By having that as well, aside from the one-on-one sessions and the workshops, it's a nice balance. Like I think personally, I wouldn't be able to guide sessions every day, like multiple per day, every day. So I always just have like a handful of clients that I really want to give my all to. So that way I also don't get overloaded. And what also really helps for me is that I focus on the improvement that they're making, right? Like how they're progressing, instead of like what they've been through. Because sometimes it can be also quite challenging to see like, wow, this person has been through so much and it's so unfair and it's so sad. But if you're going to focus on that, of course, you're going to feel super down, right? But if you focus on, okay, that has happened, it's terrible, but now he or she is getting better, can cope better, can function better. So that's the great thing. So it also really depends on the focus as well.
Yeah. And also that's like then again, like the positive things, right? That you get out of your work as well. So it's not all negative, right? It's also like if you have like 1 or 2 sessions and you see this person improving or texting you like, hey, I've done this, instead of like going always left, going always right. It's also like
super fulfilling. Yeah. It's really connecting. Like I'm just so happy for them, like when I see my clients like post something that they have achieved, like sometimes I'm literally like clapping or like I just get so happy, because it's just so nice to see that they have overcome like certain thoughts and certain patterns, and that's why they can now actually really thrive. So it's very fulfilling, and therefore also that makes it a lot easier.
You also help people in the end to kind of like unlearn things about themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, what is something that you had to unlearn about yourself first?
What is something that I had to unlearn about myself? I had to unlearn some beliefs. So I had this belief that if I would be very successful, I will outshine people, and therefore I will be lonely, right? That was like a belief that I had strongly in my subconscious because of some like past experiences. So that's something that I really had to work through. I think also to like not put people or like certain brands or whatsoever on a pedestal. Not to like see it in like different levels, but to see it all as equal. Because if something is like better than you or like higher than you, how are you going to get it, right? Then it just doesn't work. So to really not put it on a pedestal. And I guess in moments I'm still learning this, right? Yeah, those things. What else? I don't know. I have like so many documents and like journaling stuff and like.
It's also a big question.
Yeah.
But I really like that you kind of, I think especially with the pedestal, like thing that you need to learn about yourself was that it's so true, because in the end, like it's just a brand that the person that whatever hires you or not hires you hasn't found it. So like, I don't know, I would have more respect if, I don't know, if Enzo Ferrari would sit there and go like, wow, he created this whole company like crazy. And but probably not even him, probably his grandpa or something like this. So again, like it's not, but part of it. But let's say there's like really the creator that maybe you have more respect. But if it's like some casting director, it's like he has a normal 9-to-5 job, and like he happens to work for like a brand that a lot of more people know or something. And I think that in the world, like a lot of people I think about this kind of like stuff like differently. And
to see it as successful, right? And to see it as something, but then you also kind of like put it out of reach. Then it's really hard to like reach it as well, because if you're like not on the same level, then
for anyone who is kind of like now struggling with imposter syndrome or with like I think we cannot make it too broad or something, but let's say for anyone struggling with imposter syndrome, what are kind of like the first steps that you would advise them to overcome it, like as a little bit of tip, as a message to the listeners?
Well, I would say, like it's so important to really focus on what is going well. So to like daily journal, like what am I proud of? What is going well? Because, you might like grow so much, and you might feel right now that whenever you do this, this, and this, whenever you achieve X and whatever, then you'll feel good enough. But then you'll feel still the same, right? Because the feeling you'll take with you. And I think by really focusing every day on what is going well, that way you really build up that self-esteem as well, and to really celebrate yourself, to really take moments to like think about what went well, and to really be proud of yourself, and to really take a moment to acknowledge yourself, right? And to really acknowledge your hard work. And then on top of that, like this is like very practical, right? And very simple to do. But on top of that, it's also really important to like think about those deeper patterns, like where is it stemming from? So you can really try to like first identify the feeling, like how am I feeling right now? What do I believe about myself? When earlier in my life did I believe this as well? In which moments, right? And then there are like certain ways to like give yourself like acknowledgement, and to give yourself extra love, and to, I'm just thinking because I want to like go through like the whole practice, but how can I make it practical here? I don't know. I think it's helpful to understand like where is it coming from. So you can do this either like with some like therapist, right? And to really understand like where deeper patterns are coming from. But at the same time, you can also reprogram your subconscious mind in this moment right now by focusing on what is going well, by focusing on the things that you're doing great, right? Because then you're building evidence within your subconscious mind that actually you are capable, that you actually are doing very well. So the simplest thing is to like really focus on what is going well, to really make that your focus. It sounds so simple, but it's so important, I think, because the mind automatically thinks negatively to protect you. And that's okay. But we also need to like work with our brain, so it works for us instead of like against us. And then if you really want to like dive deeper, it's good to look at those deeper patterns to really see where they're stemming from, and to like do therapy or anything that works for you, like EFT tapping or hypnotherapy, or sometimes EMDR, trauma therapy, like different kinds of therapies, whatever resonates the most or is needed the most for that person.
Super nice. I think that's already probably very helpful. And for the rest, I mean, I'm going to link your socials as well so they can always come to you and reach out to you. What's kind of next for you? Like, what's next? What's the next step for you? Like, where do you want to go in the next upcoming period that you can define for yourself, how long it is?
Well, what's next? I'm going to travel quite a bit the next few months. I have some workshops planned in London and Istanbul and in Kuala Lumpur, and as well one in Amsterdam. And aside from that, I really don't know. I used to always think that I need to have a 5-year plan, and I need to have this big vision. I need to change the world. But nowadays I'm more okay, I just want to become better at what I do right now. And I just want to really hone my craft and become better at it. And I will just see where my intuition is leading me, I don't think too much ahead anymore. Yeah.
Nice.
So let's just see.
Embracing the uncertainty.
Yeah. Thank
awesome.
you.
I always have 3 final questions for every guest.
Okay.
I'm going to ask this to you as well. What are you learning right now that you're not good at?
Oh, Japanese.
Japanese? Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's...
I'm terrible at it, but I'm trying to learn a bit of it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Awesome. What name would you give this chapter of your life?
These days I find myself more really wondering about the moment. I can be walking through the street and just wonder about when the building is made, or how nice the weather is. I'm really in the moment, in those moments. And I want to increase that. So increasing presence.
Nice.
I guess, yeah.
And the last question is, if you could send a SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
I want to personalize it for everyone.
It's not possible. You have only 160 signs and that's it.
Don't take yourself too seriously. You're not that important in the best way. I feel a lot of problems stem from taking our thoughts and ourselves too seriously. And I think when we can do that less, we can also enjoy life more. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Elles, thanks so much for coming to the
you.
podcast. It was really wonderful. I think we learned a lot today about yourself. I think about the modeling industry. I find it quite interesting that a lot of people kind of, and myself included, kind of framed also this conversation more a little bit about this kind of external, internal. Also in the lead up to this conversation was a lot of times this kind of oh, it was external, internal, but I think after conversation, I think it has always been one. It has always been you, and that is kind of a really cool thing. I think that you kind of never changed. You were always the same one, and I think it was more not a transition towards from external to internal, but that the internal was always there, but not spoken out to, and maybe didn't have the right tools. And that I think was for me a really big realization today. Was really cool to learn about the model industry, about RTT therapy, about hypnotherapy. I can only thank you for your openness. It was really nice. Last question. If people want to find you, you have a podcast yourself.
Yeah.
You have an Instagram channel.
So my Instagram is Elles Ottens, ELLESOTTENS, but also Hypnocraft. So, and also I have a podcast called Hypnocraft. And there I upload the different hypnosis audios that you can listen to for free. So that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. And
Thank
if you
you
still want to listen to more podcasts, you can find them inside of YouTube or on Spotify. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because still over 80% of people listening to this episode are not subscribed yet. So now's the time. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, leave a review and help the show grow. See you next time. Yours truly, Marcus.